Yeah, I'm out at Brooklyn. Now I'm down in Tribeca, right next to the Narrow. But I'll be hood 560 State Street. Catch me in the kitchen like a Simmons whipping pastry. Cruising down A Street.
He is worth over $1 billion. His Bel-Air estate alone cost $88 million. His champagne bottles sell for thousands. Married to Beyoncé, one of the most powerful women in entertainment, Jay-Z isn't just a rapper. He's hip-hop's first billionaire, a cultural force, and the embodiment of luxury at its peak. But every empire has a foundation, and his was laid far from Bel-Air's hills. Before the Forbes covers, the billion-dollar deals, and the mansions, there was Sean Corey Carter. Born on December 4th, 1969, he grew up in Brooklyn's Marcy houses. His father left when he was 11, leaving his mother, Gloria Carter, to raise him and his siblings alone. The environment was harsh, violence and drugs were daily life, and opportunity was scarce. Yet from a young age, Sean showed something different: relentless curiosity and natural rhythm. He banged beats on kitchen tables, rapped in stairwells, and found escape in music. Hip-hop was still young, raw, and explosive, and in those streets, Jay-Z discovered both his voice and his vision. Music, however, was only part of his education. The hustle of the streets taught him about economics and survival. Sean learned about risk, investment, reputation, and timing in ways that traditional classrooms couldn't teach. These lessons would later form the backbone of his entrepreneurial empire. Where others saw only limitations, he began to sense possibilities. If he could survive Marcy, he could navigate any boardroom. If he could command respect on the block, he could command respect in the music industry. These early insights gave him an advantage that would prove invaluable once opportunity arrived. That opportunity didn't come quickly. Throughout the late 1980s and early 1990s, Jay-Z rapped with local crews, appeared alongside Jaz-O, who gave him the Jay-Z name, and built a reputation for sharp wordplay. But despite undeniable talent, record labels were not interested. Rejections piled up. Instead of waiting for the industry to recognize him, Jay-Z decided to create his own lane. In 1995, alongside Damon Dash and Kareem Biggs Burke, he co-founded Rockefeller Records. Independence wasn't just a necessity, it became his first real business model. They pressed their own records, distributed their own music, and began to build a brand around Jay-Z's voice and vision. In 1996, his debut album, Reasonable Doubt, was released. It wasn't an instant chart topper, but critics recognized it as a masterpiece. Songs like Dead Presidents 2 and Can't Knock the Hustle showcased not only his lyrical skill, but also his mindset. Ambition wrapped in luxury references, discipline rooted in street experience. He rapped about Versace, Cristal, and Lexus, symbols of wealth and aspiration. Unlike others who only dreamed, Jay-Z used these references as narrative and strategy, signaling the lifestyle he intended to live and planting luxury in his brand from the start. Over time, Reasonable Doubt became a classic, considered one of the greatest hip-hop albums ever, and marked the beginning of Jay-Z's rise as both artist and businessman. The success of Reasonable Doubt set the stage for more ambitious projects. By 1998, with Volume 2 Hard Knock Life, Jay-Z broke into the mainstream. Sampling the Broadway musical Annie for Hard Knock Life, Ghetto Anthem, he delivered a crossover hit that sold over 5 million copies and made him a household name. Suddenly, Jay-Z wasn't just Brooklyn's underground star, he was America's superstar. Tours, radio play, and awards followed. But while the world saw a rapper at the top, Jay-Z was already thinking ahead. He knew success in music could be fleeting. He had to turn it into something bigger and lasting, transforming rap fame into generational wealth. That transformation began with diversification. In 1999, Jay-Z launched Rocawear, a clothing brand that capitalized on hip-hop's growing influence. Baggy jeans, oversized jackets, and street-smart style became global trends. And Rocawear positioned him not only as a musician, but as a tastemaker. Within a few years, the brand generated hundreds of millions annually. In 2007, Jay-Z sold his stake for $204 million, pocketing a fortune while retaining cultural influence. It was his first major business exit, proof he could compete not only in music, but in the corporate world. For a boy from Marcy, selling a clothing line for over $200 million was more than a deal. It was validation that he belonged among industry titans. As his career grew, so did his appetite for luxury. In 2004, Jay-Z became president and CEO of Def Jam Recordings, signing artists like Rihanna and Kanye West and cementing his influence on the industry's future. Meanwhile, his personal life entered a new chapter. His relationship with Beyoncé evolved into a partnership that redefined power couples. Together, they amassed properties worth over $100 million, cars worth tens of millions, and brand deals worth hundreds of millions. Their 2008 marriage was less a wedding than the merging of two dynasties. When Beyoncé and Jay-Z combined forces, they shared not only love, but legacy. And for them, legacy meant luxury. Jay-Z's early luxury snapshots are telling. One of his first major cars was a Lexus GS, a modest nod to success. By the late 1990s, he had moved on to Bentleys and Rolls-Royces, symbols of wealth and refinement. He became synonymous with Cristal champagne, often referencing it in his lyrics, until a 2006 controversy with the brand's executive led him to boycott it. Rather than retreat, Jay-Z turned the moment into ownership, investing in Armand de Brignac, the now famous Ace of Spades champagne. What began as a lyrical flex grew into a business empire. By 2021, when he sold half the company to LVMH, Armand de Brignac was valued in the hundreds of millions. Once again, luxury wasn't just something Jay-Z consumed, it was something he owned. Even in his early travels, Jay-Z projected success. Whether performing in Europe, relaxing in the Caribbean, or exploring Paris with Beyoncé, he understood the power of imagery. Photos of him stepping off private jets or strolling through five-star resorts weren't just paparazzi shots. They were cultural signals. He wasn't just part of luxury culture, he was shaping it. Fans admired not only his music, but the lifestyle it represented. Jay-Z became both aspirational and inspirational, proof that hip-hop could create billionaires, and that success could be lived loudly, with taste and precision. He didn't just tour, he moved like a head of state. Crews prepped suites before he arrived, blackout SUVs idled curbside, and security swept hallways, so the elevator opened straight into penthouses with skyline views. In Paris, the itinerary might include a private gallery walkthrough, dinner after hours at a Michelin-starred spot with a tasting menu inspired by New York and Dakar, then a late-night drive to the Seine to watch the reflections on the water. In the Mediterranean, the plan was scale with simplicity, quiet mornings on deck, a trainer setting up a compact gym by the bow, calls with executives in LA, then a tender run to shore for an afternoon at a cliffside villa. Fashion weeks, art fairs, film festivals, he and Beyoncé were present where taste is set, rarely overexposed, always unmistakable. The rooms themselves told a story. Marble foyers, private pools behind latticed screens, terraces where sound engineers tested playback, so the evening felt like a private listening session instead of a vacation. He treated travel like he treated albums, curated, intentional, global. All of that motion ran parallel to a career that kept expanding without losing its center. The catalog grew into a living museum of hip-hop, precision storytelling on Reasonable Doubt, stadium-scale hooks on Volume 2, Hard Knock Life, musical architecture on The Blueprint, and the deft exit and return choreography of the Black Album, followed by a comeback that felt inevitable in hindsight. The trophies accumulated, Grammy after Grammy, yet the accolades never told the whole story. What mattered was the way the records functioned, not just as hits, but as frameworks for a life that turned art into leverage. When the tours went global, production quality matched the standard he set in business. Sharp visuals, clean lines, lighting design that made minimalism feel maximal, and stagecraft that moved like a luxury product unveiling rather than a rowdy night out. The brand was clarity, the promise was control. Beyond the stage, he built institutions. Roc Nation grew from a label play into a diversified entertainment and sports company with a portfolio spanning chart-topping artists, championship athletes, film and television projects, and philanthropy. The sports arm placed agents and advisors with elite performers across basketball, football, baseball, and global soccer, negotiating contracts that showed long-term vision over quick splashes. The music wing became a home for artists who needed more than distribution. They needed strategy. The company's culture reflected his ethos: sleek workspaces, quiet rooms for market-moving decisions, conference tables where brand partners learned that culture can't be leased. It has to be earned. Then came the streaming experiment. When he bet on a niche platform and reintroduced it with an artist ownership narrative, critics scoffed. Pricing felt premium, the proposition uphill, and the press called it vanity. He did what he always did. He reframed. Exclusive events, high-fidelity audio, and a club within a club aura turned an app into a membership signal. Later, when he sold a majority stake to a tech payment company, the narrative flipped. It was never just streaming, but proof that artists could build equity, not only catalog. He didn't need the whole market. He needed strategic outcomes. Alcohol became another pillar. Champagne shifted from lyrical motif to equity stake in a house defined by black and gold bottles and monogrammed coolers in elite lounges. Cognac moved from endorsements to ownership. And even when disputes surfaced, negotiations reset valuations at levels that confirmed what culture already knew. When he enters a category, its pricing power changes. Restaurants and clubs reinforce that spine, where playlists matched lighting temperature and deals closed at table height without raised voices. The venture bets widened the lens further. Early stakes in ride-sharing and fintech showed he didn't enter Silicon Valley as a tourist, but as a translator of demand. Consumer brands in wellness, plant-based food, and beauty benefited from a distribution channel that needed no billboards because it had credibility. A later-stage fund with partners, fluent in both spreadsheets and street codes, meant the pipeline wasn't limited to what major banks recognized. Due diligence mixed metrics with instinct. Product market fit, founder grit, and whether the brand could stand beside a platinum record in a penthouse keycard. The returns were more than IRR. They were cultural resonance priced correctly. Nothing this visible moves without friction. He has faced controversy on personal, professional, and public levels. In one era, a legal case put him in headlines for the wrong reasons and ended with a sentence demanding introspection more than spectacle. Years later, a family elevator video spread worldwide and fueled speculation that refused to fade. When he aligned with the NFL to consult on culture in the Super Bowl halftime show, some accused him of crossing a picket line. Others argued he positioned himself to influence from inside. Streaming drew criticism, artist deals drew scrutiny, liquor negotiations escalated into litigation. The microscope never blinked. What set him apart was not a spotless record, it was disciplined response. When Champagne executives made a dismissive comment, he didn't feed the press cycle. He pivoted to ownership. When the world dissected his marriage, he took the stage in the studio instead of the timeline, turned private repair into public art, and let the work speak. When activists questioned his football deal, he produced halftime shows that widened representation and funded projects for the very communities critics said he'd ignored. He treated controversy like an engineer treats stress tests, data revealing where the structure needs reinforcement. That transformation arc found its clearest expression in a late-career album that sounded less like a victory lap and more like a board meeting set to music. On those records, he traded brags for balance sheets, mea culpas for mentorship, and punchlines for parenthood. He spoke directly to missteps in money, credit scores, trust funds, life insurance, art as portfolio, the cost of ignorance, and the compounding effect of learning fast. The cadence was still Brooklyn, but the syllabus was generational wealth. Concerts on that run felt like seminars where smoke machines stayed off. Lights drew clean architectural lines, and the audience didn't just cheer, they took notes. That recalibration also reshaped his philanthropy. Scholarships expanded, re-entry programs gained steady funding. Legal defense funds quietly paid invoices that never made headlines, and criminal justice reform alliances formed with partners who weren't there for the photo. Disaster relief checks cleared quickly, and community centers were upgraded so kids felt, perhaps for the first time, that someone designed a space with them in mind. The message was simple: if success does not multiply, it expires. He had no interest in expiration. On the business side, the comebacks read like case studies. A streaming venture many predicted would fail ended with an elegant exit. A luxury liquor portfolio most artists would only endorse became a negotiation table where he sat as owner. A sports agency once dismissed as vanity negotiated contracts later justified by stat lines and rings. Even partnerships that drew backlash evolved into platforms delivering visible, measurable change in how culture appears on America's biggest stage. His scoreboard lives in quiet spreadsheets and loud Sundays in February. And yet, beyond the spreadsheets and deals, Jay-Z's empire is also written in stone, glass, and steel. His real estate portfolio speaks as loudly as his business moves. Step inside the Bel-Air mansion, and it's clear this is not just a house, it's a statement. At more than 30,000 square feet, the property crowns a hill overlooking Los Angeles like a throne. Floor-to-ceiling glass makes the city feel part of the living room. 4 swimming pools curve around different levels, so water always reflects the California sun. There is a spa, wellness wing, helipad, bulletproof windows, and garage space for his growing fleet. Inside, marble, oak, and steel blend in a style both modern and timeless. In East Hampton, the second act of his real estate portfolio sits quietly behind hedges. The $26 million estate blends New England tradition with understated luxury. It is not flashy, but classic. Wooden shingles, sprawling lawns, a guest house that could serve as a primary residence for anyone else. Here, summer evenings stretch with privacy and calm, the counterbalance to Hollywood's glare. It is where the Carters host close friends, where children run freely, and where wealth manifests as space and silence. Each property has its own identity, and together they show Jay-Z doesn't just buy homes, he curates environments. His car collection mirrors this philosophy of curated statements. The flagship is the Maybach Exelero, an $8 million one-of-one supercar. Futuristic lines, black finish, a presence that silences a crowd without moving. Then comes the Bugatti Veyron Grand Sport, a gift from Beyoncé, valued at over $2 million and capable of near aerospace speeds. A Rolls-Royce Phantom adds gravitas, the car of kings and captains. A Ferrari F430 Spider delivers sleek Italian performance, while Bentleys and Mercedes provide versatility for different occasions. These vehicles are less about transportation than representation. Each model reflects a facet of his identity: exclusivity, power, speed, tradition. The collection could fill a museum, but in his world it fills garages designed as showcases. Pulling up in a Maybach is not about arriving, it is about arriving with intent. Jay-Z's net worth is more than a number. It's a layered composition of business decisions, brand ownership, and cultural credibility. Estimates place his wealth between $1 and $2 billion, depending on the valuation of his holdings. Armand de Brignac alone is worth hundreds of millions, with LVMH as a strategic partner. Douce Cognac, even amid disputes, remains a cornerstone of his liquor empire. Roc Nation, with its diverse roster of artists and athletes, is valued in the hundreds of millions. His music catalog, spanning decades, is itself a 9-figure asset, with publishing rights, masters, and licensing secured for generations. Today, Jay-Z is both present and elusive. He releases music selectively, often guest verses that dominate conversation for weeks. His verse on DJ Khaled's God Did stretch 4 minutes and reminded the world that even in his 50s, his lyrical precision is untouched. He rarely gives interviews, but when he does, the insights go viral. He has been inducted into halls of fame, sits in boardrooms with global executives, and still commands stages where tens of thousands chant his words. On social media, he remains minimal, but his name trends with every move. His marriage with Beyoncé continues as one of the most powerful unions in entertainment, a dynasty that generates headlines whether they want it or not. Their joint tours, like On the Run 2, grossed over $250 million, proving that together they are not just musicians, but cultural monarchs. Culturally, his relevance is unshakable. He is no longer just a rapper, he is a living institution. From Brooklyn to Bel-Air, from the Marcy Projects to billion-dollar boardrooms, Jay-Z's story has become the ultimate American dream redefined through hip-hop. He has shown that rap can be a pathway to the highest levels of wealth and influence. He has shown that luxury is not just consumption, but creation. That culture is not just performance, but equity. He has turned every lyric about champagne, cars, and penthouses into a reality he now owns. and he has done so with discipline, vision, and resilience. And so, as Jay-Z enters his 6th decade, the question is not whether his story is complete, but how much higher he will climb and how far he will push the boundaries of possibility. Will he keep expanding Roc Nation into new industries? Will his children inherit not only his wealth, but his discipline? So what do you think? Is Jay-Z the ultimate blueprint for success? The man who redefined wealth, music, and influence for an entire generation? Or is his empire still only in its middle chapters, with greater heights yet to come? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more stories of luxury, legacy, and the icons shaping our culture today.